And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 13 of season 2, a few things I want to remind you guys about. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. If you like our content, make sure to comment below and give us a thumbs up. Also, in today's episode, you're going to be seeing me wear the new Protect the Ball merch drop. Ryan's wearing a hat that will be up on our Revved Up 906 times Grind Clothing Co. merch drop very, very soon. So if you are interested in wearing this sweatshirt, the hat that Ryan is wearing, make sure to click the link in our YouTube bio or in the description below, because that's going to shoot you to our collab with Grind Clothing Co. And there's a bunch of other designs for you to choose from so that you can rep your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906. So make sure to support Grind Clothing Co. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Episode number 13, we are going to be talking about what to expect from Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. They are our most recent Pistons, and we traded away Marvin, Bagley, and Isaiah Livers for the two veterans in Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. Now, Ryan, I know that we both are very high on Marvin Bagley, and we probably wish that it could have worked out, because I think we still saw some shines of what he possibly could be. Hopefully he gets a nice fresh start with the Washington Wizards. But what are your thoughts on Marvin Bagley getting traded away? Do you wish it was somebody else instead of him? Are you happy with him maybe seeing what could happen in Washington? What are some of your thoughts with the loss of Marvin Bagley?
Well, first off, I think this is actually a benefit to him, given the fact that he's still only 24 years old. He's only on year 5 right now in his career. He's still relatively young. He's going to a team that's not expecting to contend for a championship anytime soon, even worse than we are. Their roster is all over the place. That's going to give him a lot of ability in just playing time. When he came to Detroit initially, he was getting 20 minutes a game. I'm assuming he's going to get that and then some with Washington, just because of where they are roster-wise. And then even there's been talks of Daniel Gafford getting moved on from the Wizards too. So that could open up a starting possibility for Bagley at center for them. But I think it benefits him more than staying with us, just because, like, obviously Wiseman won that battle between the two. It became evident as of late when we're seeing Wiseman out there a lot more, and Bagley's just not even getting playing time. And he's not injured. He's a healthy scratch. I just think it was just a time in which both parties could have moved on from it. I kind of, part of me hates that it had to be him. But again, it's a business and you have to make moves at the end of the day. And I as good as he is, I think the move that we made to acquire these two players in exchange for him and Livers and then the 2 draft picks, I think it actually works out for us far better than it actually works out for the Wizards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Marvin Bagley needs a fresh start with the Wizards, and it was evident when we went up against them, and Jalen Duren absolutely had a clinic with 20 points, 19 rebounds. It was evident that Daniel Gafford needs help, and say he doesn't get traded away, he's going to stick around a couple of years. Marvin Bagley is going to add some depth for the 5 position in Washington, and we still have so many bigs on our roster. You know, we had Stu, James, Duren. And so where does Bagley fit in? Well, he didn't really fit in. So it was nice to kind of unload one of those centers and have a little bit less of a log jam at the 5 position. And something that's a big deal when talking about this trade is that the Pistons unloaded $12.5 million that they were going to have to pay Marvin Bagley. So Washington takes that over, and then Detroit brings in 2 guys that their deal ends at the end of this season. So depending on how Danilo and Mike Muscala play, we can decide if we resign them, kind of what we did with RJ Hampton last year. We traded for him from the Orlando Magic, had the rest of the season to kind of decide if we wanted to re-sign him. We ended up not re-signing him. So it was kind of a smart move for the Detroit Pistons as far as affordability. On the other side of this trade is the Isaiah Livers, and it's kind of a love-hate relationship with Isaiah too. I mean, he's a Michigan boy, and we wanted to support him a lot, but really just didn't give us much to support him. And Ryan, what are some of your thoughts on losing Isaiah Livers?
I'm not well, okay. I love Isaiah Livers from his time at Michigan. Go Blue always. But he just when we initially drafted him originally, I'm sitting there going like, okay, that could be a sneaky good pickup for us. We got him late in the second round. We didn't have to give up too much to get him. He could be if he did what he did at Michigan at this level, we could be talking like a steal of the draft in terms of a rotation player. But go fast forward to year 3 so far for him, and he's playing even worse than he did his rookie year. He's playing even worse than he did last year. And it's not like he's getting a minutes decrease. He started 6 games for us so far this season. And in those games, you're expecting him to go out there and be able to have a 3-point shot, be one of the best shooters on the team, and yet he's missing miserably bad. I can't even, my words are jumbled. It's that bad. Like he was shooting 34% on the season from the field and 28% from 3. And he's supposed to be some fantastic shooter. I love him from Michigan. I'm always going to love him from that. But at the end of the day, he was hurting us more than he was helping us. And so with that being said, if you have to throw him in to get a Mike Muscala or to get a Danilo Gallinari, I will take that gladly any day, because the fact that we even got value for Livers is shocking to me.
Right.
But I love him because of Michigan, but he needed to go.
So to talk about what the Pistons received, and I kind of have mixed emotions on adding another big man to the Detroit Pistons, but I first want to talk about Mike Muscala. This season so far in Washington, he's played 24 games, averaging around 14 minutes a game and 4 points per game, 3 rebounds. As far as what to expect from Mike Muscala, it's kind of a difficult question to answer, because I guess the short answer is I'm assuming he's just not going to really play. I don't expect him to take minutes away from Wiseman. Mike Muscala is a guy that's played in the NBA for 10 seasons now. You kind of know what to expect from him. One thing that is nice is he is known for stretching the floor a bit. He'll be a nice, solid vet to have come off the bench if we ever are dealing with injuries. We know that Isaiah Stewart has been dealing with some lingering issues these last couple of weeks, finally made his return against Washington. And then James Wiseman historically has dealt with injuries. So I think this Mike Muscala pickup's kind of like okay, worst case scenario, we'll have to play him if we deal with injuries, kind of like a Nerlens Noel from a couple of years back. Ryan, what are some of your first initial things of what to expect from a Mike Muscala?
First off, I actually like the addition from him. Yes, like you said, he's played 10 seasons. He's bounced around from team to team. He's been in a lot of package deals because a lot of teams actually value him and what he can bring to a team. The last couple seasons, he's played good basketball, not fantastic basketball. And everybody in the comments were going like, oh, we're adding 2 35-year-old old men kind of players. Mike Muscala is still only 32. He's relatively young still. He's not old. He's not a bag of rocks. Neither is Danilo Gallinari. They're relatively young in the NBA right now, like LeBron. Now, I'm not comparing them, but like in terms of age, like it's not far. It's not like, you know what I mean. But Mike Muscala is a fantastic shooter. In his career, he's shooting 45% from the field and 38% from 3. That's a good shooter. The fact that he's a center too, he's a stretch five. He can give you solid minutes. It's not like he's one of those players where you're going to start him the whole game, but when you need a player in crunch time or you need a player due to a foul issue from, like, let's say Jalen Duren or James Wiseman are picking up fouls fast, throw in Mike Muscala, you're fine. Because he's one of those centers who works their tails off. They're not like demanding the ball. They're very unselfish. When their number's called, they'll hit the shot when they need to. That's Mike Muscala. In every game so far from the Wizards this year, yeah, he's not been like tearing it up because of, like, in terms of the box score, he's not getting a lot of minutes, but that's because the Wizards, they're not playing to win right now. They're not going to play all these vet players when they could. They're going to oftentimes not give a chance to Jordan Poole and all these younger guys just because they're younger and less experienced. But Mike Muscala, I think, is a good addition for us. And if you're comparing him and Isaiah Livers, he's an upgrade over Isaiah Livers 100%.
Yeah, I think that Mike Muscala is he's a good gym guy too. He's kind of a pro's pro. That's actually kind of what I like about both of these guys in this trade is this team's emotional. We know that the Pistons can have their ups and downs. That's kind of what happens when you have a team full of young guys. It's going to be nice having these two vets kind of come into Detroit, not add to the drama that already is kind of following the franchise right now, just with what comes with losing streaks and stuff like that. And so they're going to add a nice dynamic to this Pistons team. And a Mike Muscala is going to have a calming presence in the behind the scenes and on the plane and when the team's traveling together. And I'm not sure if they will lead to team chemistry. I'm not sure what kind of off the court personalities they have. They seem to me as like a pro's pro. I think right away these two European guys are going to deal real well with knowing Bojan and stuff like that. So it seems like that hopefully that will lead to some chemistry. But to talk about the other half of this trade, and Danilo Gallinari, right now he's averaging 7 points a game, almost 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and he's playing around the same as Mike Muscala, around 14, 15 minutes a game. I could see him have an uptick in minutes per game with the Pistons. My only thing, Ryan, and to kind of open the conversation with Gallinari, what do you think? It's hard to ask because it's like Bojan and Danilo Gallinari really remind me a lot of each other, similar in size, great shooting, just can score mostly through 3 levels. Do you see them overlapping in minutes a little bit where they have a lot of court time together? Or is it the type of situation where Bojan starts, Danilo has no overlap with the starters and doesn't really get playing time with Bojan? Because I'm not sure how they would mix playing together. Well, what are some of your thoughts on that?
I think in tandem, they would work together very well. Yeah, they are kind of similar. Danilo is just massive compared to Bojan. Bojan's only 6'7". Danilo is 6'10" and weighs a bit more. But everywhere Danilo has played in his career, from New York to Denver to LA with the Clippers, to the Wizards now to the Pistons. He is the type of big man who is literally just a stretch 4, can play the wing. He's not by any definition a true big man. But what he brings is 3-point shooting, and not just 3-point shooting, just overall shooting. He's very smart with the ball. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't foul. He's an unselfish player, but knows when to be selfish in certain situations.
Right.
These two guys coming in are culture setters. That's who they are. That's why we made this trade. And I think in terms of minutes overlapping, I think they will overlap. And I think Danilo is gonna overlap with the rest of the team too. I don't think you make this move by trading away Bagley, who could have started for you on any given night, not mainly as a true starter, but he could have started for you. I think he's going to get those minutes. I'm not saying he's going to be a true starter. Neither is Mike Muscala. These are going to be rotation guys. That's what they are. That's what Alec Burks is. That's what Joe Harris is. That's what Monte Morris, as soon as he comes back, is going to be. All these vets that are coming in are rotation players. I really see Danilo Gallinari playing just as much as Alec Burks in just the same ballpark of minutes and to have the same type of role. And I see them on the court together too. When you have, and that's what this team is missing, right? Like Cade is, in no disrespect to Bojan, but outside of Bojan, he doesn't have shooters within the lineup. You When you're able to size up in that department and bring in Danilo Gallinari, who can play the four easily, that's his main position, who can play the four, then you throw it, maybe you have Bojan in at the game and have him at the three and then Ivy at the two, whatever, so be it. I really see this as a positive move because it clears out the paint. And like we mentioned in our last episode of getting Jalen Duren the ball, this is going to help get him the ball because you're going to space the floor and allow Duren to work the paint alone. And then it's just going to be that's what I see this being as, is like you get these guys to not only A, create a culture, B, to add shooting, 3, to add vets, and then just like overall quality of players. You know what you're getting. You're getting good high-end role players that are going to play a big part in the rest of the season. And then honestly, I see Danilo Gallinari coming back because like Bojan Bogdanovic, we bring him in, and a lot of us are going like, okay, we should sign him to a contract extension. And others are going like, yeah, he's a little bit older. I see the same thing happening with Danilo Gallinari because like Bojan, he's a very popular, high demand trade asset in terms of role players. Like you're going to want, any team in the NBA wants a shooter, and that's what he is. So I think there will be an overlap in minutes just because Danilo is one of those high-end role players that can shoot. He's historically a great shooter, and this team needs shooting.
One thing that I like about Danilo is when the bench comes in and Marcus Sasser is trying to facilitate, and Isaiah Livers is there on the wing with his stint with the Pistons, Marcus Sasser just didn't really have much help of threats, offensive threats. And so what I like about Danilo is he's going to make the job easier on Alec Burks, Marcus Sasser, on our guards, because like you said, it spreads the floor, and it's not just great for Duren or a Wiseman in the paint. It's also good for our point guards because it's easier to facilitate an offense when somebody isn't a legitimate 3-point threat. Isaiah Livers, throughout, getting later to most recent in his stint with the Pistons, teams weren't really too worried about him on the 3-point line. But now every NBA teams knows that Danilo, the last 13 years he's been in the NBA, has been a great threat for each and every team he's played on. So what I like about him is he's going to add a new dynamic to our bench, and it's only going to make it easier at Alec Burks because it's going to spread the floor out. It's going to have the guards, the defending guards in a loop. Okay, what do I have to do here? Do I go up on Burks? Do I hit Gallinari? What do I do here? And then that gives an opportunity to Marcus Sasser to really show his passing ability and to spread the ball and hopefully get opposing defenses having to be that more active and that more all over the place. So I really like the offensive threat that he's going to bring on the bench, because now you have Alec Burks, Danilo Gallinari. I mean, those are two pretty legit 3-point shooters to come off your bench. I think it was a great move just in the 3-point shooting alone.
Yeah, this trade by no means was like, I guess you could say a lot of people in the community are against the trade just because, like, you have Danilo at 35 years old, you have Mike Muscala at 32, and you're trading away Marvin Bagley, who's 24 years old, and Livers, who's in that ballpark of age. Like, you're trading away 2 young guys to get 2 old guys on a team that really hasn't won any games. There's only won 4 on the year. So why are you trading away young assets to get older players? There's a reason for that. Like, these guys, they're, again, like I mentioned, they're rotation players. That's what they are. They are going to help set and create a culture that Weaver wants to create, that Monty Williams wants to create. And these guys, they're vets. They know how to win games. Danilo Gallinari, in his time with the Knicks, great. His time with the Nuggets, phenomenal. Even when he's been with the Clippers and so forth, he's been a very solid player that any team in the league would want to have on their team. And yes, this adds 3-point shooting, which we desperately need because Bojan isn't just going to cut it. But they are great defenders themselves too. Mike Muscala barely fouls, and so does Danilo Gallinari. This season, Danilo is only averaging 1 foul per game. Same with Mike Muscala. And then career wise, it's the same. Like they're only averaging like a foul per game, and that's it. So with Livers, he was fouling like almost instantly, majority of the time. Same with Marvin Bagley. Those two guys severely struggled in that department. And so when you're adding two vet players that don't turn the ball over, don't foul, and add 3-point shooting on top of great overall defense, I see this as a win for them.
So we talked about as far as play style, how they would mix with the roster and all those little intricacies. Now let's talk about stats wise. What do we expect from Mike Muscala? Actually, let's talk about the minutes because that's going to be a big thing. Legitimately, realistically, what are we going to see from Mike Muscala coming off the bench?
I see him kind of getting the ballpark of minutes that Wiseman's getting, just a little bit less. So I guess the way, like, kind of like Marcus Sasser in terms of minutes right now for Mike Muscala. That's what I see. I'm not saying that he's going to steal time away from Marcus Sasser and steal his minutes, and then Sasser's not even coming off the bench at all. I just see Muscala. I see Mike Muscala averaging around that in terms of minutes because he is a very productive player. And if not, then he's great to just sit on the bench and be one of those culture pieces, kind of like a Udonis Haslem has been the last couple of years of his career. Really hasn't played before he retired this past year. That's what I kind of see out of Mike Muscala. He's a culture piece. If you need to give him minutes, you give him minutes, but otherwise, he's on your bench.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think that right now it's great that we are at least seeing James Wiseman stay healthy. I think Mike Muscala is a great backup plan if James does go down with an injury. This is the longest James has been able to stay healthy in his career, which that's something to talk about. So, I mean, it's kind of going to go either way. I don't think they're going to let him take minutes away from James Wiseman just because I think we have to bet on some of our younger guys after not betting on some of them and Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Livers, so I think he's probably going to get 6 minutes a game, probably by the end of the season. I think right away we might see some minutes from him like we did with Nerlens Noel. We made the move for Nerlens and then we saw him play his like first 1 to 2 games and then that was about it. As far as Danilo Gallinari, I think he's going to have an uptick in minutes, especially with we saw Livers start here and there to up until right before we traded him. So I think that Danilo is going to get some pretty solid minutes. I'd say like these first 5 games of his stint with the Pistons, I say it could hover around 20 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a solid amount of minutes from him just because we need to feel out what he is going to be able to help our bench with. Is it going to be the stellar 3-point shooting? Since he is getting a little bit older and 35 years old, is he going to stick around the rim a little bit more and ball hawk? What is it going to look like? Will be kind of interesting. And I think that's why we're going to see some pretty big minutes from him in the beginning stages of his stint with the Pistons. Ryan, what are some of your thoughts on what to expect minutes wise?
Well, Livers right now, had been averaging roughly 20 minutes a game this season, and career wise for us around 22 minutes a game. And Danilo is definitely going to take those minutes away from him. Since Livers is no longer on the team, thankfully. But Danilo is the type of player where right now in Washington, averaging 14 minutes a game ish. That's just like I said, that's because they're wanting to get the young guys in. They're not really playing to win right now. They're just playing to play. That's what the Washington Wizards are. So what I see is Danilo coming in and taking those minutes that Livers had of roughly 20 minutes a night. And honestly, you could even see him hovering around 24-ish minutes a night, just depending on how well he's playing on any given night. I think he's that productive of a player where you need to give a guy like him those kind of minutes, just because like what he's been able to do in his career as a 3-point shooting big man, it's been impressive to see. And like the last time we played the Wizards outside of recently before the trade happened, Danilo came off the bench, dropped 16 on us. Like he barely played that game too, barely had any minutes, and he scorched us. So just given the fact that he doesn't need a lot of time on the court to be effective, I could see the Pistons and Monty going like, you know what, we like that a lot, and we want to have a guy in the rotation that can easily get us a bucket like Bojan can, like Cade can at any given time. Let's keep him out there for a longer haul and give him kind of the minutes that Livers had been getting, and even Alec Burks as of late.
So if you had to grade this trade an A to an F, Ryan, what are you giving this trade? I would love to know your thoughts on this, because I'm trying to think. It's a hard one to grade because it's kind of an emotional trade for Pistons fans, because these are two guys in Isaiah Livers and Marvin Bagley that you kind of had feelings on every end of the spectrum on them throughout their time with the Pistons. There was times where you loved them and you're like, oh my goodness, they're playing insane, to what are they doing out there? They should be cut and done with in the NBA forever. But Ryan, adding in two vets to the Detroit Pistons and losing two of our younger guys, young core guys, what's your trade grade?
Honestly, I've seen a lot of people that are not Pistons fans grade this as like, we lost this trade, like a C minus, and the Wizards somehow ended up with an A plus. I don't see that. Not saying that Bagley's a bad player, but he's gonna have a solid career there. I see that to be true. But for our end, on what we got everything that so far that Weaver has set out to get. We added in vet players that can shoot and are good culture players too. They're great overall individuals, and they know how to win games. And so that, with that being said, I see this as like an A minus, because I want to give it room to be better than that. But I can also understand how this could be in the B plus to like C plus range, because you don't know what could happen with this kind of trade, just because they are expiring contracts. If they play great to start and then kind of like towards the end of the season, then maybe they get let go in terms of free agency, or maybe this is a part of a bigger trade that could be coming at the deadline. Who knows? Like, but for now, I'm grading it an A minus.
Yeah, for me, this is tough to give it a grade, because I really thought highly of Marvin Bagley. I wouldn't have probably traded him. I understand there's a logjam at the center position, but I don't know if he would have been the center I traded. I really liked Marvin. Livers, everybody, the listeners, and you know that I did not think too highly of Livers by the end of his stint with the Pistons. So I think it was time for him to get traded. It hurts to see Bagley go. I've always liked Danilo Gallinari because he's always scorched the Pistons every time he's played up against us. Mike Muscala, I could give or take. He's, I think he's solid, but he's not going to be a game changer. I would, as of right now, I would give the trade a C plus, because it's not like a James Wiseman trade where it felt like blockbuster, like, ooh, this could be a game changer. This trade doesn't really feel that way, and I don't think it was necessarily meant to be a game changer. I think it was just meant to kind of switch things up. But I would give it a C plus as of right now. I hope by the end of the season it's an A minus, A, whatever it might be. I hope I'm wrong. Right now, I was just high on Marvin Bagley. I think we maybe gave up on him a little too soon. I would have probably finished the season with Bagley, and if nothing changed, would have traded him. But yeah, right now is C plus, but that could absolutely change. That will do it for episode number 13. We talked about what to expect from the newest Detroit Pistons of Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. Make sure to like and subscribe. And before you guys leave, if you made it to the end of the episode and you're not as much into our long form content, you're into the short clips, make sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because you can watch our YouTube reels and our Instagram reels, where almost each and every day we are posting 30-second clips, highlights from each and every episode, whether it's a revved up recap or our Saturday episodes. So make sure to follow us on Instagram or subscribe on YouTube and check out our YouTube reels. If you are interested in collabing with the Revved Up 906 guys, make sure to message us on Instagram to our Revved Up 906 Instagram, and feel free to have any business inquiries or any following sponsorship opportunities. Make sure to message us on Instagram. We will see you guys in the next Revved Up episode. Peace.